We are live. Hey, good morning. 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. I am Greg Mester, Scrum Master and Agile Coach. You'd be amazed at stuff that goes on in Philadelphia at 5 in the morning. I came over to walk the dogs, and two little raccoons was crawling around the neighborhood on 2nd Street here, out down here in South Philadelphia. Was not expecting that. I would have videotaped it, but kind of caught off guard. And then I had to wait for a little bit for the raccoons to leave before I took the dogs out for a walk. Yeah, it was an interesting morning. Anyway, 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. We're not here to talk about dogs, but we're here to talk about shovels and multi-purpose shovels. And we're going to talk about this. And you're like, how does that relate to what we're doing? It's got a multi-purpose shovel, got a pig, got a little pick thing going on here, right? Anyway, so we'll talk about that and how that relates to multi-purpose roles, because I also got, hey, what's up, Bubble? Hey, Bubbles. Hi, Bubs. I got my giant coal shovel from the Pennsylvania Railroad. Little wooden handle. It's really old, so fully intact. It's pretty cool. We're going to talk about that. There's lots of things about that shovel that talks about multi-purposeness. So we're going to talk about that a little bit and how that relates to multi-purpose people and HR. We're going to debate, is it good or is it bad? I'm going to talk about that a little bit from an HR perspective, people perspective, and productivity perspective. Because what do we talk about? We talk about here in the 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show, Scrum and Agile in a practical and tactical way so you can bring value to your customer, not work crazy hours to get that value to your customer, get home in a decent time so you can hang out with family and friends, and apparently kitty cats. Bubbles, you want to be on here? You can bait. Bubbles, come here. Come here, Bubs. Come here. Come here. Show me the TV. The Bubbles. These are Bubbles. I got a dog over here. They're finally getting to be friends a little bit. And apparently Bubbles wants to make sure her tail is on the show. So, what am I talking about? So, the other day, we didn't do a show yesterday because we were out thrifting. We went garage selling. And I'm telling my son, what's that orange thing in the box? There was an estate sale we stumbled onto. I'm like, what is that orange thing? He's like, what orange thing? I'm like, the big orange thing. And he picks it up. Oh, cool. It's a camping shovel. So you know how we like to go camping. Ooh, it was like a finger. And I thought this would be nice and handy in case we really go backpacking camping like we used to when the kids get a little older. Or now, anyhow. So, so there's this shovel that's multi-purpose. So this is like a pick. So you know, pick, right? Or you can dig, like if you're digging out a campsite or a latrine, in case you're out there in the middle of the wilderness, you have a little shovel that's multi-purpose. Can you do a pick? This is great for rocks and everything if you need to pick through some rocks. And the other one's a shovel. And I got it for $2. So I said, for $2, worth it. And then we have the shovel access, right? So why do I bring this up? I was having a discussion the other day, kind of triggered me about this whole multi-purpose thing. Some organizations are like, oh, you know what? When we go Agile, it says the person's supposed to do all the roles. Therefore, we don't need any testers, and we don't need that. So we'll just let go of our testers, and we'll make all our developers into testers. Okay. There is something to that. However, just like this shovel, right? Got a little shovel. It's multi-purpose. It can be a shovel, right? It can be a shovel. And maybe it does the right work. It can be a pick. So let's imagine it can be a pick, right? A pickaxe, right? So it's got a little pick. It's got a little handle. It's great for camping. It does the job, right? It's a multi-purpose, has some requirements. But it's not as efficient, right? So if I were to look at this pickaxe, and this is why I want to show references because people don't see this. Got this pickaxe versus this old railroad pickaxe. So what do you think with this handle that's like this long, right? So what do you think is more effective at picking at stuff like a coal, right? If I took this on a train, a steam train, it's picking with this little guy for coal, or picking for this one with coal. When the coal's rocks, right? So what do you think? I'm gonna crush Bubble. Bubble's like, don't crush me with that big giant pick, right? So that gives you an idea. So If you make developers into testers, are they going to be testing like at this skill set? Are they testing at that skill set? Now, there's a lot of difference. So I'm talking about skill sets, right? And adaptability. So now we go look at the shovel part. So now I'm going to take this and turn this back into a shovel, right? So now it's a shovel. It's a pretty neat little, I think this is so cool. I can use this all the time. So I got this shovel, right? Got this shovel. And if you see my picture we got into, I have this shovel. This one, this big giant. And it's a Pennsylvania Railroad shovel. Someone wrote with chalk on it one day, Pennsylvania Railroad. I'm going to show you something. So what do you think is more efficient at putting more coal into a steam engine? This one or this one? I think it's this one. So if you're a developer and you're just concentrating your skill set with a developer and this is what you do, versus this one, which is multi-talented, which one do you think you might be more efficient at? Right? So that's the thing with the developer thing where people are like, oh, we'll make all the developers testers and we get rid of all the testers. Well, you lose this capability from a productivity perspective, right? This is your productivity versus this. And what I see companies do, it's like, oh, you know what? We don't have to hire any more testers anymore. So we don't have to do on the training and testing. We don't have to do that anymore because our developers can do everything. However, they need to be trained in testing and all that stuff too. So what you take from this perspective from a productivity is you're now getting this for each person on your team. Now, yes, they can do multi-roles. Yes, they can test each other's stuff. Yes, they may be able to find bugs a little better for what they do. However, you got to reduce the capacity and velocity of your team if that's your decision. You're not going to be able to produce the same amount of workout in the future, right? It's just not going to happen. Now, here's another thing about like learning extra capabilities. See this right here? Guess what they tried to do? Guy, whoever had this on the train, which I love. That's why I love the shovel, because it tells so many stories, right? He cut it out, probably himself or herself, probably most likely him at the time, because it's a really old shovel. Cut it out himself, so it's got this, and put points on the end. Why? Because he didn't want to go grab the pickaxe all the time. He wanted to use the point to help pop the coal out when it got cold and frozen out there, because fall's coming, it gets cold, right? So with this kind of shape, with the pointy end, he basically got the pick, right? He got the little pick. So this person made, but the problem is at some point in time, it doesn't work as good because it's not as strong a material. When you're hitting that wood, it just kind of bends it up and kind of defeats the purpose of the pick, right? Or the points, right? And the shovel. Sooner or later, the shovel doesn't work anymore, right? So that is one of the problems with doing the multi-purpose. Everyone says, oh, we're going to do multi-purpose. And I've seen a lot of companies now. It really kind of scares me to death, actually, that they say, well, we don't, because Scrum, or it's to say Scrum teams say, you know, it's just a developer, therefore we don't need testers. So we don't need that. That's the only role in Scrum, therefore we only hire developers. You're missing the point. You're going to get productivity. I should just leave this down like this, right? You're just going to get the little pickaxe, little pick shovel productivity. You're not going to get the productivity that you had once before. And then they blame Agile and Scrum. Oh, we're not as productive. Well, because you fired half your workforce, and now people have to learn 2 skill sets to do their job and become really good at it. They have to know both. Therefore, you might get more bugs. You may get less bugs, but you might get more. There's going on different things on that. Now, the other thing, let's talk about Scrum Masters. The idea of having Scrum Masters being the pick, right? So Scrum Masters, they got a lot of stuff to do. People are like, oh, they should do more. They should be more developers and stuff like that. Well, if your job is to get a whole team to be highly productive, you're doing, let's say, a tester role, let's say a product owner role too, and this is your Scrum Master role. You're getting a little bit of productivity as a tester or a product owner. Now, it's nice to have it. Now I got the dog cat coming over here. She wants to go cuddle with the dog. So you get a little bit of productivity with this, right? But it's not a lot. It's not as much productivity as a Scrum Master. If I am, let's say your engine, your bubbles, don't move the camera. Let's say your engine, your steam engine, right, is your team, right? Do you want to give your team this much power, or do you want to give your team this much power? What do you think is going to get the team more motivated, more productive? I think it's going to be this much. I don't think it's going to be this much. So that's what I just wanted to share with you today. A couple thoughts, a couple illustrations of, visuals on the difference between having a role that's single pointed versus a role that's multi. You can have a role like the big coal shovel where you learn a little bit of testing so you understand what it does. Doesn't mean that that's the only thing that you do that all the time, because if you do that all the time, something's going to give, right? And you saw the curling on the shovel. The same thing goes with teams. It's good to have multi-role people, but then they don't really get that efficient, right? And you need to weigh those pros and cons. And just because a doctrine or a framework says you only have this role and you don't have the other roles, doesn't mean you go do that. You have to assess that with each team you're working with, what makes sense. If you're a small startup company, probably makes perfect sense because you can't hire a lot of people. It's like, dude, you're going to have to test my software. I'm going to have to test yours. I have a lot. But when you get a larger company, you can afford it. It's more productive to have multiple people. And that's just my opinion. And I also think it helps provide more quality work. And again, as a manager, what I don't see is when they make these decisions in HR, God forbid, they don't take into account, well, we're not going to be as productive. We're not going to produce as much stuff because everyone's doing 2 jobs. So what you think you're saving, like let's say you had a team of 12 people, and 6 were testers and 6 were developers. You think that by cross-training your 6 developers, that you're going to get the same productivity out of the team that you had once when you had 6 developers and 12 people. You're not going to get that productivity. So I just want to show you that if you start cross-training, this might be the productivity you get out of your team, a smaller amount versus the giant coal shovel, which would be this amount, right? So, and so keep that in mind. It's nice to have the talents and nice to have it to help you with some things that you need to make the transition handoff so you better understand what the other person's role is and what they do. But to totally eliminate it, I don't recommend it. I don't care what the damn Scrum Guide says. Oh, you just need developers and they should be multi-trained. Yeah, multi-trained, but just to understand it so there's no reduction in throughput. That's all. It's not total replacement. And people misunderstand that. And those are those Agile accountants out there that we always talk about that don't have a freaking clue what they're talking about. So I wanted to share that with you today. And the other one is like, product owners don't need a BA. Once your team starts producing, you're going to want a BA on your team. And if your company, it's like, we don't have BAs anymore because Scrum only has a role of product owner, Scrum Master, and developer. Therefore, we're not going to do that. You're shortchanging your system and your productivity output. Because I'd be honest with you, I'd rather have my product owner out there with people who are in with the customer, getting that information, than all the time writing stories all the time. I'd rather have them write some big epics. Here's what I want. Here's the graphics. Here's what I want. And then have somebody help me out to break those epics into stories. And does it make sense to have the developers do that? Maybe. So remember, dual use, smaller. It's not as productive, and you have to reduce your capacity and your velocities. So with that, say see ya. I'll see you on Monday. You have a great weekend. And it's a crazy morning at 5 a.m. in the morning out here in Philadelphia. There's all kinds of stuff stirring in the bushes. All right, little raccoons. That was this morning. And I guess everybody's sleeping now. Bubbles, Betty, Jerry. So Have a good day. Bye. And see you tomorrow.